Hey guys, not here and meetings all day today, so we are going to be doing a quick review here before we take our quiz. So make sure you do have a calculator and a piece of paper out. So pause the video and make sure that all students have this. All right, this first section we're going to do just our factoring stuff. Reminder: these are the ones that have no equal sign. So break them down into their primes. Find what they all have in common. That's the greatest common factor. And then you put the remaining stuff back in the parentheses. These are the first two. If the sub would please pause the video and give the students 4 minutes to complete these two problems. All right, this first one. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to break down the 60b squared. So 60 is 6 times 10. 6 is 2 times 3, and 10 is 2 times 5. So that gives me 2 2s, 1 3, and 1 5. And then for the b squared, I have 2 b's. And then I have the negative 18b. Remember what we talked about yesterday? When you have a negative, put the negative 1 there. And now I'm just breaking down the 18. 18, that would be 2 times 9. And 9 can break down to 3 times 3. So I have 1 2 and 2 3s. And I also have the b. And now I'm looking for what they have in common. And in this one, they have a 2 in common and a 3 in common. Okay? They also have a b in common. So my greatest common factor, remember, you only count these once, would be 2 times 3 times b. So 2 times 3 times b, that would be 6b. That's the greatest common factor. It goes on the outside. And then I look at what's left. Okay, for the top one, I have 2 times b times 2 times 5 times b. That's 10b. And on the bottom one, I have negative 1 times 3. Negative 1 times 3 is negative 3. And this would be my factored form. Okay. With the second one, similar, but this one I actually have 3 things that I'm factoring here. So start off here, the 20 end of the 6. Okay, that 20 is 4 times 5, and 4 is 2 times 2. So it gives me 2 2s, a 5, and then it's end of the 6. That is 6 ends. 3, 4, 5, 6. Negative 12, end of the third. Remember, get the negative 1 out of there. And for 12, that is 2 times 6. 6 is 2 times 3. So I got 2 2s, a 3, and then end of the third, that would be 3 ends. And the last one, the negative 24. N. Again, take the negative 1 out. 24, that's 4 times 6. 4 is 2 times 2. 6 is 2 times 3. So that's 3 2s, 1 3, and 1 n. Now it's got to be in common in all 3. So for this one, we have a 2 in common. We have another 2 in common. And we have an n in common. So my greatest common factor, 2 times 2 times n, is 4n. From the first one, I have 5 n to the 5th left over. The second one, I have negative 3 n squared, so minus 3 n squared. And for the last one, I just have negative 1 times 2 times 3. That would be negative 6. Okay, and that would be my factored form. All right, let's do our next set here. If the sub would please pause the video and give the students 4 minutes to complete these two problems. All right, this first one. Got 3 of them to break down. Start with the 10. 10 is 2 times 5. So all I have is 2 and a 5. The 8r. For the 8, that's 2 times 4. 4 is 2 times 2. So that's going to give me 3 2s and an r. The last one, the negative 14, r to the third. Get the negative out of there. 14 is 2 times 7. So I have a 2 and a 7. And I look for what's in common. They have a 2 in common. And that is it. So my greatest common factor is 2. And then I look at what's left. For the 10, I have a 5. The 8r, the middle one, 2 times 2 times r, that would be positive 4r. And then the last one would be negative 7. And that would be my factored form. Oh, Lord, Mr. Alone. Apologize, guys. If you notice, I forgot to put my 3 r's and my r to the third. Okay. Now, it didn't affect my final answer, but I have more left over there. So it'd be negative 7 r to the third. Now, the very last one. There's only 2 of them. Break it down. Okay, take the negative 1 out. 35, 5 times 7. So I have 5, 7, y squared is y times y. 30 y squared x, 30 is 5 times 6. 6 is 2 times 3. So I have a 5, a 2, a 3, 2 y's for the y squared, and an x. So I look at what's in common. Well, they have a 5 in common, and they have 2 y's in common. So my greatest common factor is 5y squared. What's left? Negative 7 plus 6x. Okay, and that's the factoring part. Now, the other part that we're going to have on our quiz today is the solving. Now, things you need to remember when you are solving. Okay, number 1, you have to make sure that it's equal to 0. If it's not equal to 0, we can't solve it. Once that happens, okay, we need to go ahead and factor. Once it's factored, then we can use that 0 property. Okay, so sub would please pause the video here in a second. Go ahead and pause the video and give the students, let's say, 5 minutes to complete these 2 problems. All right, the first one here, guys, this one's already factored for us. Notice it says equals 0, and it has 2 factors. Okay, these 2 things are multiplied together. So I can just go ahead and do my 0 property because it's already taken care of, all the factoring, and it's equal to 0. So I have x plus 7 equals 0, and I solve that equation. Got x equals negative 7. And I also have 2x minus 9 equals 0. And then I solve that equation. Add 9 to both sides. I get 2x equals 9. Divide by 2. And x is 9 over 2. So my answers here are negative 7 and 9 over 2. Those are my 2 solutions here. Now, the second one, 2x squared plus 10x equals 0. For this particular one, I first need to make sure it's equal to 0. Okay, it is a quadratic. Okay, it's of degree 2. And it is already equal to 0. So I'm ready to factor. So let's go ahead and factor this. I'm going to kind of do that off to the side here. 2x squared, that is 2 times x times x. The 10x, 10 is 2 times 5, so that would be 2 times 5 times x. So I have a 2 in common and an x in common. So I'm going to factor out 2x, and I'm going to be left with x plus 5 equals 0. We cannot forget that equals 0 part. Okay. Now from here, now that it's factored, we can do our 0 property. We got 2x equals 0. Divide by 2. And x is 0. And we also have the second one. x plus 5 equals 0. Minus 5 on both sides, and x equals negative 5. So my two solutions would be 0 and negative 5. Okay, let's do two more here. If the sub would please pause the video and give the students 5 minutes to complete these two problems. All right, this first one is not set equal to 0. So the very first thing I need to do here is I need to set this equal to 0. So I'm going to choose to move that negative 10x over to the left. So I'm going to add 10x to both sides, and that's going to give me the quadratic 6x squared plus 10x, and negative 10x plus 10x, that equals 0. So that's what I needed to get happen. Now, I need to go ahead and factor this, okay? So just like we did in the last one, I'm going to do it off to the side here. 6x squared, well, that's 2 times 3. So I have 2 times 3 times x times x. 10x, 10 is 2 times 5. So I have 2 times 5, and then x. So this has a 2 in common and an x in common. So my greatest common factor is 2x. What's left over here is 3x plus 5 equals 0. Well, I'm ready to solve. There's my first one. Got 2x equals 0, and I solve it. This is where we're using the 0 property. That's how we get our final solutions. It's got to be factored first. And my second one, 3x plus 5 equals 0. And I just solve the equation. Minus 5 minus 5. Get 3x equals negative 5. Divided by 3, and I get negative 5/3. So my two solutions for this one are 0 and negative 5/3. Okay, last one before we take our quiz here. Look at it. Again, this is of degree 2, so it's a quadratic. I can't use my old rules on this. I got to make it equal to 0. Okay, now this one already equal to 0, so that part's done. So now I'm ready to factor. So this 8x squared minus 4x, I need to factor this. So 8x squared, that's 2 times 4. 4 is 2 times 2, so it's 3 2's and 2 x's for my x squared. The negative 4x, don't forget the negative 1, and then 4 is 2 times 2. And I have an x. So this has a 2 in common, a 2 in common, and an x in common. So for this one, my greatest common factor is 4x. And I am left with 2x on the top minus 1 on the bottom equals 0. And now I can go ahead and solve. I can use my 0 property. So 4x equals 0. Divide by 4, and x is 0. And the second part, 2x minus 1 equals 0. So add 1 to both sides. Get 2x equals 1. Divide by 2, and x is 1/2. So my two solutions are 0 and 1/2. Okay. Now, these are the types of problems you're going to see on your quiz. Okay. Just a quick reminder, okay, for your quiz. That way this is clear. Okay. You guys know the routine. You know what you're allowed and what you're not allowed. So remember, your phones need to be put away. Your earphones need to be put away. That's not optional. Okay. Put those things away. The only thing you should have on your desk is an actual calculator and a writing utensil. That is it. Okay. Once that takes place, then the sub, you'll be able to pass out the quiz. Guys, when you're done with your quiz, turn it in like you normally do. And then we need to be working on ALEKS. You'll have a chance to get some of those topics done during class today. Okay, so get your quiz done first, turn it in, then you're working on ALEKS. And we will see you tomorrow. Bye.